There are moments in life that because of the circumstance, we fail to see the beauty that surrounds us. Manuel Alfredo Garcia Castilla, known by many as Papi, was a sweet older fisherman from Mexico with twinkling, mischievous eyes and a creased, well-worn smile. Not too long ago, he was sitting next to me on a winter day. As was our tradition, we had parked on the edge of a road that swings out on a hillside and overlooks the valley I call home in southwest Montana. As it was cold outside, we shared a warm bowl of soup. As a good friend does, Papi listened patiently as I shared certain events in my life that I was struggling with. The late afternoon setting sun started to paint every aspect of life in front of us in combinations of blue, rose, and dusty purple, which are softer colors. But perhaps because of the cold, everything started to transform and shift into sharper, crisp focus. The view was turning into something altogether extraordinary. From a place deep inside, that place within all of us, where emotions are born, I started to cry. Now perhaps it was what we were discussing, the awesome view, or the emotions brought on by the tears, but it turned into a moment that was altogether poetic, and I let the tears just run. Through wet cheeks and wet eyes, I said, "Esto es maravilloso." To which Papi calmly and coolly responded, while twisting his mustache, "Perro, hay momentos en la vida en que por circunstancia no vemos la belleza que nos rodea." There are moments in life that because of the circumstance, we fail to see the beauty that surrounds us. On October 9th, 2011, I was electrocuted with 2,400 volts from a neglected electrical junction box in the heart of the Montana mountains, miles from help. I was airlifted to the University of Utah Burn Trauma Intensive Care Unit, Salt Lake City. The doctor on call that day, and I quote, said that when I arrived and I was wheeled in through those doors, I was a bag of bones with a heartbeat. I would spend the next 5 days fighting for my life. This image was taken on day 9, moments after being told by my surgeon that despite valiant efforts, there was an infection present in the damaged tissue of my left hand, and there was a high risk that that infection could run up my arm to my heart, and then that could kill me. I opted for surgery and became an amputee. In total, I spent 50 days in ICU. Over the course of 2 years of intensive plastic surgery and physical rehabilitation, I would tally 21 surgeries. Today, just over 6 years from that event in my life, and I find I am still working on the emotional and psychological parts of recovery. My life had clearly just been flipped upside down. And yet here, I am smiling ear to ear, practically grinning. So I'm often asked, Eduardo, in the wake of such a disaster, how is it that you remain so positive? I think about Papi's quote. There are moments in life that because of the circumstance, we fail to see the beauty that surrounds us. Now, it could have been the painkillers. I was on all of them. But I believe I knew what Papi knew, that the spark of the human heartbeat is the birthplace of happiness. And I was still alive. Now I invite everybody to find your pulse. That rhythmic beat below your fingertips represents the greatest gift on earth, life. And surely that is reason to smile. While in ICU, I recall feeling empowered by the understanding that although I was bedridden, at times bandaged head to toe, unable to perform the simplest of tasks, I still had abilities. I could channel my attitude and express it through the light in my eyes, and by doing so, contribute to the room of professionals, family, friends, working their tails off around me. All of a sudden, I had a job to do. I could contribute. My contribution was no longer gauged by maximum output, but rather just the effort. And in my case, effort was attitude. The results a winning attitude had on the room around me were real. I turned to we, and we became an ICU room that laughed, loved, shared, talked about someone's wild Saturday night, kept it human, and ultimately we triumphed. We all have the power to choose our attitude. No one can ever take that from us. We can never forget that. So what have I learned? I believe we are here to thrive. That is, to live full and rich lives. To take advantage of every opportunity in front of us. I believe those precious moments on earth represent life's greatest lessons. Those lessons come at us, and granted, they don't all smell like roses. Sometimes they look like 2400 volts ripping through your body. So what have I learned? We are forged by fire. We should, in some, if not every way, become stronger once through any challenge. This example is perhaps best seen in ourselves. Are we not a complex machine that adds on to its existence through experience and learning? The strength we develop in order to pioneer forward is perhaps best seen in ourselves. Take exercise. Through the continued use of specific muscles via targeted movements, we stretch and tear our muscles. We purposely expose our body to strain and fatigue. Why? So that those muscles learn and develop to become stronger. This example is seen in all facets of our human body. Our physical, our psychological, our mental, our emotional, when we let it and when we recognize it. Imagine a mental shift, a daily physical act whereby we wake up and we walk out and we step into the world around us free of the damaging effects of labeling life's experience as being positive or negative, and instead we take advantage of everything as an opportunity to thrive. Imagine that world. Imagine if we shook free of our calcified layers of learned doubt and fear. Now, I believe we can learn from the child. On the day we are born, that child knows intuition at the purest level. And when we experience pain for the first time, when our umbilical cord is cut from our mother, we run with the experience of that pain, and kicking and screaming, we fight and are catalyzed for life ahead of us. We learn from day one to fight, not to lay down at the first sign of challenge. I had just received the greatest ass-kicking of my life. And lying on my back in the woods, miles from help, I returned to that primary place. My eyes open. There was no high or low. There was no, this is good or this is bad. There was no, this will be easy or this will be hard. There was just survival. In our core, it's what we do best. Now I can thank the Spirit, the great indwelling life force, for the clarity and focus I needed. And like the newborn babe that takes its first breath of sweet air 100% via its own efforts, I summoned every ounce of moxie and I commanded myself, get to your feet. My next memory was the sound of dirt and rocks beneath my boots. I found myself walking down a dirt road in search of help. The road I was on came out of the mountains and wound across the foothills of pine, juniper, sagebrush, and native prairie grass. Ideal habitat for badgers and prairie dogs and jackrabbits and other little creatures. Now my adult mind kicked in and told me that the quickest way to help was to draw a straight line from A to B, and B represented the homes below me. That was help. That by doing so, I would cut the corners of the winding road, and by going off-road, I would experience a distance savings of about 75%. One heck of a deal. My compass north screamed no. The intuitive wisdom within me knew that if I was to trip and fall or stumble even once on an unforeseen rock or hole, I would not get up again and I would surely die. It is human nurture, not nature, that we learn to love the things that are easy. Every influential piece of medium around us tells us daily to go looking for the easiest, sweetest, quickest dollop of cream we can find. To this day, I am impressed and still reminded by the truth of my next move. I was walking to save my life. Every second passed was a second I was that much closer to death. I had miles left in front of me. And I chose to walk the longer, slower journey. So long as our heart continues to pulse and fuel the unbelievable miracle that is the human body, we will always have a choice. And in that choice, we are not powerless. 2 months ago, the world lost a very special man. Papi, or Dad, as I also called him, was an architect of happiness. He would walk into a room like this and he would light it up. And he would light up others who he came into contact with. In his death, he left detailed instructions to guide us in the details of his passing, his funeral, his memorial. Together, with the help of my family, we executed his wishes. We cooked meals from the heart, his favorite dishes. We sang songs like Mexico Lindo because they reminded us of his legacy, and we told stories late into the night and early into the morning. We danced like Papi danced because it brought us out of grief and elevated just enough so that we touched joy, and it made the hell we were going through just this side of tolerable. And so it was that when walking with my family, I found that I was crumbling to pieces. It was in the heat of that hell that I was forged into something stronger. Friends, it is time to worry less about labeling the experience. Time to embrace the experience and be grateful for the opportunity to feel alive in all its many masks. It is a beautiful, beautiful world out there. And regardless of the circumstance, let us take both the negative and the positive and get charged. Thank you.